everyone, welcome back. I'm Katie, and today I'm doing a book review on The Woman from Lydia by Angela Hunt. So I really enjoyed this book. I honestly did not think I was going to get this review out to you on Monday because I figured I just started this. I was only I think 5 to 10% in, just this morning. And I finished it in less than 10 hours. It was crazy. And I haven't done that in a very long time. Number one, because I did want to get this video out to you today, but I actually really enjoyed this book. So this is the first book in a series, I believe. Yes, the Emma series, book 1. And so I don't know if the next book in the series is going to be of a different character. It probably is, because I know Angela Hunt's books, I think, usually follow different characters in her series, if I'm not mistaken. So this one, we are following a girl named, so if I get the character's name wrong, I'm sorry, but I think it's Lydia. But she is a widower. She lost her husband and her daughter, and she has a really interesting job. I had no idea about this. This is so interesting, but you can actually see from the cover this beautiful purple clothing that she's wearing, and purple cloth and blue cloth is very rare in the area where she lives. And so she ends up finding out how to make this beautiful purple cloth out of sea snails. And so she learned about Jesus and God, I believe before she met Paul, but then she meets Paul and she learns about Jesus. So she ends up living on the seaside. She's a pretty wealthy woman at the time, and so she does have a lot of servants, but they're all previously owned slaves that she ended up freeing, which I think is amazing. So she ends up living on the seaside, and she and these women end up collecting these snails, and part of the snail they scrape off, I believe it was yellow, but when it dries out and it becomes powder, it becomes this beautiful purple dye to create these beautiful, really expensive clothing. And so she offers women who've been in slavery, offering these women these jobs. And so this book is actually dual perspective. So the other perspective we're seeing is a retired Roman soldier named Hector. And he and his kind of soldier friend Lucius, they get together after they retire, and so they buy a couple slaves, and they end up buying a house. And so they end up buying a slave who's, I think she's about 12, between 10 and 12 when they get her. Well, she used to make them a lot of money because she was I think back then they called them necromancers, I think. And so she used to be able to foretell the future, but she had a demon inside of her. And so one day Paul is in the area, and he ends up calling out the demon in Jesus' name, comes out of the girl, and now Hector says she's useless, which she is useless for them. But so he ends up trying to use her for other really terrible things. And so Lydia finds her, tells one of her servants to go and buy her. She sees her in the marketplace trying to be sold to other men. And so he ends up buying her from the partner Lucius without the other man Hector knowing about it. So he buys her, but there's absolutely no bill of sale, because he's too worried about the girl. So he brings her back to Lydia. I have a hard time with that name. But then something happens where Hector comes back, and he takes back the servant, saying, there's no bill of sale. It's null and void. I don't care if you paid a lot of money for her. It doesn't matter. So he ends up getting her back and is taking her to find another very bad woman who deals in the dark arts to try to get back his slave's powers. And so Lydia, she hears from Jesus saying, I have to go. And she hears Jesus just calling to her saying, I really wanted to help this girl become free, and I feel Jesus leading me to follow this bad man Hector and get her back. And so this whole thing it's really a character-driven story. So we're not seeing a whole lot of action. There is, don't get me wrong, there is definitely scenes of action in this book, but it's definitely character-driven. And so you're following her and her servants, Phoebe and Aristona, I think that's his name, or Ariston. And so we follow her and Phoebe and her male servant as they're traveling, following Hector and his slave to get her back. And so I just really love the journey. I loved the characters in this book. I really thought seeing such different aspects, like I really just love this era and seeing these from different authors' perspectives. Angela Hunt, I feel like, does a really great job. And so this is definitely just set in biblical times. Other than seeing Paul in like one or two scenes, it's mostly just set in biblical times. It's not actually about the Bible characters, except of course for Jesus and Paul. But I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. And yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to say about the book without, I mean, it's basically self-explanatory of a book. It was really good. And I love the history behind the purple cloth. That was probably one of my favorites, just finding really interesting facts about this career that like I had no idea. Like I knew about like dyeing sheep wool and stuff like that during that time, but getting a dye from snails, like I guess you learn things every day in fiction as well. So definitely check it out. I'll make sure to link this down below if you want to buy it and purchase it. Thank you to Baker Publishing for sending me a copy of this book to read and talk about with you. So I can't wait for the next in the series. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video.